people love stories. So tell us a couple of your most, I don't know, you decide your best. We don't want to hear the worst, but what are your stories? Couple of your clients, you go, this guy really got it, or this young lady really picked it up and ran with it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, we've had so many incredible blessings, working with the folks that we work with. But the beauty of IBEC, and I feel, I just get excited about this, is that we don't discriminate. We work with folks at one end of the continuum that are startup businesses in real tough areas, like through TriVenture that you and I have been part of, and launched a lot of those businesses that, quite frankly, no one would touch. And we also work at the other end where we're raising capital for businesses that are looking for $500,000 or more. So we kind of and everywhere in between. And so when I think of but the beauty of IBEC is we spend as much effort and time on the folks who are at the the end of the spectrum where they're trying to raise maybe say $10,000 versus 500,000. And there's one young gentleman that just this guy is just been such a blessing to me. I started working with him. Um, he was able to secure capital about a year ago, but it took me about a year, Mike, to get him to the point where we could actually get him in front of the investors. Now, he's in Tanzania, really tough area, and he wanted to start this business, and he was looking for a $10,000 loan, and nobody would give it to him. There was no way that he was going to secure this loan unless he found something like TriVenture. So we put him through TriVenture, where we focus on the lean canvas, where we focus on an executive summary for investors, where we did multiple pitch deck rehearsals and got him ready for his pitch. And he went in front of the investors and he just hit it out of the park. So he secures this $10,000, which for a lot of folks, we hear $10,000 and we're like, that's great, but what can you do with 10,000? Well, you know what this guy did with $10,000? He went and he hired 4 young men. He started a soap business. He's got this business up and running. In the first 6 months, his profit was over $10,000. He started to pay back his loan. In fact, I just talked to him earlier in the week. He's preaching this weekend in 2 outside villages,
Wow.
and he came to Colorado, and I met with him and his wife, and they came here to meet with a ministry, and I shot down there and met with him, and I'm telling you, this guy, I mean, I feel like 99% of the blessing has come to me, and we just happen to be part of this $10,000 loan, but it's changing that community. And so you've got that story at that end. So anybody who's out there who can relate to that, reach out to TriVenture, because these are the kind of businesses that we're changing, that we're using to really change the world, and that we're part of to help change the world. At the
Bob,
other end of the
I've got to,
spectrum,
before you tell the
yeah,
next story, I got to jump in that,
yeah,
just make a point
yeah,
here, because you and I talk a lot about this, that so much of the capital that purports to be available to the BAM movement, they're so cautious, they're so thorough that nobody out there in the real world can qualify.
yeah,
That sounds terrible, and I'm overstating it to make the point, because there are, and the other is it's large, and so therefore I understand caution. If you're gonna invest 100,000 or $500,000, I get that.
yeah,
But most of what you and I've seen in the business mission movement around the world for the last 30 years is still small business.
yeah,
And that $10,000, which sounds like chicken change to us, uh, that's a lot of money in most countries.
yeah.
And you could do a lot with it. And so the fact that you say, coming to you because you can represent them to a $10,000 investor or a $15,000 investor, I think is absolutely vital in this equation. All right, so you're going to tell. So that's a great story. I love the fact that you did it. You were there. You're still there with him,
Yeah.
and we're going to see some amazing things. You started to tell another story, and that's why I jumped in. I just wanted to make that point because I do want potential investors in our audience to think not necessarily about risking $500,000. Think about risking $25,000,
Exactly.
and the difference it can make is still huge.
Exactly. And the beauty of that is it's an investment. I mean, this is a real business. This is a business that is focused on the quadruple bottom line. They're focused on sustainability. We go through their numbers every month, and it's a serious business, and it's impacting those lives in Tanzania. At the other end of the spectrum, I had an opportunity. This probably goes back, Mike, about 7, 8 years ago. I met two young men that went over to Uganda, and they wanted to address a countrywide issue, which was the deforestation problem with charcoal. All these trees were getting decimated. So, long story short, these guys, they purchased some land, and they started to look at efficient ways that they could address this issue, really with kind of the country in mind. And then as they got there, they realized that they started meeting the farmers, that they started living and breathing this problem at the farmer level. And they have got thousands of farmers now that are part of this program that are now looking at efficient ways. The company's called Kijani Forestry. I mean, they're unbelievable. They've got I think, over 600 employees, um, and it's an amazing business. And we were able to get them into the Lions Den in Birmingham a few years back as one of the finalists. And God has blessed them for their obedience. I look at these young, you and I talk about it all the time. I mean, there's young men and women out there today that we need to get them into the BAM game, right? We got to get them in. And
Yep.
when I've had an opportunity to be part of what these guys are doing and seeing the impact, they now have a BAM accelerator in Gulu, as kind of, in fact, one of the Quinn Neely is his name. His wife runs this accelerator. It's just had this domino effect. But this is a business that's at the other end of the spectrum. But and everywhere in between, we really try to give everybody everything that we have, and really try to make a difference for their particular situation. But those are two stories that just immediately come to mind for me, because they're different, but they're beautiful because they're really changing lives for Christ.
Well, the fun for me in that, Bob, is that you always try to tee some of these guys up to be guests on the podcast.
Yeah.
So I got to interview the guys from Kajani. I've got to interview some of the other folks that are getting it done, and their stories are amazing. So I'll say to you what I always say: keep them coming, man. I love
Yeah.
it.